Hi, listeners. Kristin here. I'm going to do a little disclaimer or a big disclaimer for this particular show. It's pretty graphic. It's about an incident with an animal that just happened to me. And it's with Prairie Conlon, who works with people, animals, horses, all of those great things. She's a podcaster on the network. She took over and now hosts the Animal Effect show. But she reached out to me because she had heard that I had something that, well, a dog catcher or an animal control person that's been in doing that kind of job and seen it all for 30 some years after being a part of this incident had never been a part of anything like that awful. So be prepared. You know, if you don't think you can listen to this, you certainly don't have to. Just turn it off and go to the next one. It does have a great end point to it. So I really encourage you to either fast forward to the end where we talk about all the good stuff and how everybody got through the situation. But not going to lie, it is pretty graphic and probably really hard to listen to. It was hard to go through. Thanks for tuning in.
I'm not the house of cards that falls down easily. I'm strong enough to handle what you throw at me.
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I'm your host, Kristin Sunanta Walker. Just what are we going to discuss? The intimacy that is mental health. Let's continue to make it as comfortable as discussing brain health or heart health. This show has been on the air for several years and we have amazing co-hosts. And then we created a network of podcasters on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com, a place where every possible facet of mental well-being can be talked about openly. My show, after several hundred interviews, the format is this: intimate, deep, funny, touching, sometimes uncomfortable, but always vulnerable conversations with interesting people. The goal is to have you, our listening family, many of you who have become my good friends, feel as though you are listening in on private conversations. Thank you for tuning in and becoming part of this amazing journey with me and now with our network of podcasters. Just knowing this podcast might be helping any of you realize you are not alone on this journey called being a human being makes doing this podcast worth every second.
After all we promised we'd be cordial.
Hey everyone, Kristin Sunanta Walker here with Mental Health News Radio. I'm on with one of our amazing podcasters, Prairie Conlon of the Animal Effect. Hi, Prairie.
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm bruised, and I'm way too old to be this bruised and this sore. I mean, I'm way too young to be this bruised and this sore. So, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of why we wanted to do this. It sounds like you had quite the experience with your horse the other day.
Yes, we were out riding. A friend of mine and I were out riding, and we were riding in a town that was built by a former movie person back in the Ava Gardner days. And the town is built for people with horses. So the fact that this all went down in front of the sign that is the entrance to this horse town is, you know, really interesting. It isn't this place's fault, but we were there and on our horses, and I looked down. My horse, you know, you can tell when you're sitting on a horse, you can feel that they're getting nervous. And she's used to, you know, she's used to dogs, but I could tell she was a little nervous. I looked down and there's a dog. I'll say the breed, even though this isn't the breed's fault. Let me just put that out there. So it was a full-blooded pit bull. And the dog went straight into attack mode and started attacking my horse while I was on her.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So she wouldn't buck or kick with me on her because she didn't want to hurt me or whatever the reasoning was, but she wouldn't protect herself. So I was starting to slide off anyway because she was going in circles. And so I jumped off of her basically and got off okay. Although I think the saddle horn hit me in the stomach because I have like a 12-inch bruise across my stomach. That's the only explanation.
Oh my.
But, and then what proceeded was about 6 or 7 minutes of pandemonium with this dog, like the Terminator. This dog would get kicked full on in the head by the horse, was getting kicked by humans. I'll explain who was there in a second, but this dog would go down and get immediately right back up. So think about the movie The Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what this dog, it went after her 8 consecutive times.
Oh my. Yeah. And so when you were on the horse, she was just circling, trying to keep it from getting a hold of her legs.
Exactly.
And so and you wanted her to be able to defend herself and be able to kick out, but she was being cognizant of you on her back. And so you slid off, and that's when she was able to kind of deliver some of these kicks to try to deter the dog.
Yep, I had a hold of her, and my friend who's there, who's like my friend for life now, she's a born and raised cowgirl, barrel racer. She's like you, so she knows what she's doing, and she had her horse. She let go of her horse's reins, grabbed my horse's reins, because we were afraid that if the horse being attacked, my horse would take off and run back to where we live, that dog would follow it, and it would have, to where all the other farm animals and horses are. So she held on to my horse and was going in a circle, and as she's doing this, she's kicking the dog, I'm kicking the dog. Get this, animal control lives across the street. A senior animal control guy lives across the street from this place. He just happened to be driving home for the day right as this is happening, gets out of his truck with that, I don't know what that pole thing is with a loop where they catch the dogs, but he pulled that out. The owner of the horse, a young guy, came running over. So it was 4 humans and 1,000-pound animal, and it took us 6 to 7 minutes to stop what was going on.
Wow, that's divine intervention, that animal control person not only lived across from you, but was there at that time, because 6 or 7 minutes, I mean, we think about that and we think that's not a long time. It's a very long time when it's trauma like that. Absolutely. And so, I mean, in the dog, it kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. Why do you think that the dog was like that? What was kind of the background of that dog?
Yeah, I can explain, because the guy was so freaked out, the owner, that he just blathered on about stuff that he probably didn't wish he hadn't. But thankfully, the dog had all of its rabies shots. What was explained to us by the owner was that this dog, was a female, was bred in somewhere in Florida, I think, to go after wild hogs for sport. And part of the training that these dogs get, these pit bulls get, is that a shock collar is used on these dogs from the time they're a puppy to turn on their kill switch and to desensitize them
to pain. And that's why it kept getting back up and coming and coming and coming.
The reason why it went after my horse, it would have anyway probably, is because it saw a beautiful horse behind a fully electrified fence. It went for that horse, hit the fence, got shocked. My horse was 20 yards away, and then said, oh, I can't get this one. It's fully turned on. There was no telling this dog. The dog was either going to get shot or caught, or my horse would be dead, and probably us too. So that's why the dog wouldn't listen. No one could stop it, no matter how many times you kicked it, no matter how many times my horse kicked it. That is why it just got up and kept going, because of human beings and how they trained this dog.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I hate those kinds of situations where animals, are literally doing what they were supposed to do. And then, who pays for it is not only you, but their owner too. I mean, so what happened with this dog? I mean, it finally stopped. How did it stop?
Well, the only reason it stopped is because my horse, it got up, it attached to her flank, to her right flank, and she was literally spinning it around. It was not on the ground at that point. It was attached by the jaw to her flank, and and she was spinning in a circle. I don't know who got it off of her. I think she did. She was able to pick up her back leg and kick it enough off of her. Then it bit her in the front shoulder and took a nice little chunk out of her shoulder, and it got her in 4 places. But what finally got the dog off enough was it went underneath her and started to attack her belly. And that, because we couldn't get to it under the horse, because that we would have been killed or severely injured. So she kicked it so hard that it rolled 5 feet away about, and the dog catcher then was able to get it with that loop thing around its neck. And that's the only reason that this dog was stopped, was because they got that loop around its neck. That's it. That's the only reason.
Mm-hmm. How did the dog get out in the first place? Was there any kind of reasoning that the owner gave?
He said, he gave 2 different stories. One was, my dog's never seen a horse before. And so I took her for a walk on a chain so that she could see some horses. And I thought, are you the most ignorant person that has ever lived? That's a whole other thing. And the other one was, oh, she broke out of the house because she saw horses. Either way, what?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's our responsibility as pet owners, for whatever pet it is. If it's a horse, a cat, a dog, we have to be able to, provide them with the proper restraint. I mean,
yes.
And especially if you have something like that that's potentially dangerous,
that's lethal. Yeah.
It as a parent, it really scares me to think, what if there were children walking around there?
And he kept saying, she doesn't go after people. She doesn't go after people. And I said to him, it doesn't matter. Let's take the whole issue that she went after an animal, a beloved horse. Let's put that aside. She went after a horse with a person on it. I could have been killed or severely injured in any number of ways. And what if, since this is a horse place where many, many, many young children ride their ponies to go visit, what if it decided to go after a horse that had a little kid on it?
Yeah. I feel like in my own personal opinion that that kind of training and hunting, it just seems cruel to the dog, on top of the way that they're hunting, which I really don't understand. That me and my family, we're hunters. We like to hunt deer and turkey and birds, but it's always been a very respectful practice. It's respectful of the animal and how you take the animal, and making sure that that they're not feeling any pain, and really oblivion is kind of what we go for. We just don't want them to even know, and then it's this pure, great organic meat that we can give our kids. And, I cannot wrap my head around hunting like that.
Yeah.
These dogs that, first of all, your dogs can get hurt, and then the animal is going to be, suffering as they I know in nature this happens all the time, but that's, in nature. But to have that happen, and here's the other thing, the reason that we always want to put a clean shot on an animal when we're, hunting, is because if they run far or they get really worked up, that puts adrenaline through their body, and that can, sour the meat.
Right.
And so you're talking about hunting a hog, and the meat's going to be just tainted with all of this cortisol and adrenaline and testosterone that's pumping, and you might even lose your animal. So it's really hard for me as an animal lover to get behind something like that, first of all. And then second of all, because obviously look at the situation. That's really scary, Kristin. I'm glad that you're okay. Now, did you receive any bites or anything like that?
I have a hole in one of my I have thick boots. I have a hole in a boot and all the way through to my sock, and I have a red mark on one of my feet where that hole is, but it didn't break the skin, and my boots are very thick. But I don't think that the dog was trying to bite me. I think my foot got in the way while kicking the dog, but keep in mind too, this was not, these guys that do this do not hunt these hogs for the meat. They literally just hunt them for sport. There's no getting the meat. It is to get as many of these beautiful pit bulls out there to just slaughter these animals in the most cruel and horrific way. They do not get any meat out of this. the dogs are constantly injured. This dog that went after my horse has had internal injuries several times because of this. There is nothing redeeming in any way about how this dog was raised. And when the guy kept saying to me, man, I just can't believe she went after a 600-pound horse. And I said, well, actually, she's 1,000 pounds. And he smiled and said, I can't wait to tell my friends that she went after a 1,000-pound horse. This is the mentality. This is the mentality of what we were dealing with. And he's crying, and he was crying about the fact that he's probably going to have to put his dog down because she's so hurt from what happened. And I'm thinking, probably going to have to put that dog, your fault, but the dog needs to be put down because now it likes horse meat, horse blood. Mm-hmm. And you're living in a residential neighborhood with a bunch of horse. Like, what on earth are you thinking? Were you kicked in the head as a kid? Like, what is this guy thinking?
Wow, that's really upsetting. And I mean, when you put it in that context, honestly, I mean, we all know that, dog fighting is illegal.
Yes.
It really is pretty much the same thing. I mean, they're not really hunting for, hunting to me is you're getting meat, you're providing, and you're, using as much of that animal as you can. So they're just doing that to watch the dog destroy the pig. How is that any different than dog fighting?
Exactly. And actually in many states,
wow,
the sport of this is illegal. Believe me, I did so much research about this. Luckily, we have amazing, veterinarians. I want to say who they are, but I don't want anyone to know where I live. So, but these vets were incredible. And, they said, you got so lucky. This horse is amazing. The vet kept saying, your horse is amazing. Like, your horse is amazing because she would not kick and buck with me on her. And then she jumped in front of the dog to protect. I mean, I'm not kidding. It may sound crazy, whatever. I'm not kidding. This is the second time that this horse has done this with me. The dog was jumping at her, but it was coming towards me because I had sort of fallen that way because she was pulling. And so she turned around and got right in between us and body blocked the dog.
Right. Well, and I just want to maybe be able to put this in context for people to understand. So this is a 1,000-pound horse that I don't know if anybody's ever seen reins before, but it's a simple rope.
Yeah.
You were on the ground holding the reins, or your friend was holding the reins. This is a 1,000-pound horse. You're, a tenth, not even a tenth of what they can do.
Yeah.
If that horse wanted to get away, the horse could have gotten away.
Exactly.
The horse chose to stay there.
Thank you.
The horse could have easily said, yeah, I'm out. They're a prey animal. This is a predator. In all of nature, that horse, their instinct is to run away. Get the heck out of here. This is not safe. The fact that a prey animal would stick around in front of a predator that is physically attacking them and actually biting, and it's a huge testament.
Absolutely.
It's a huge testament to that animal wanting to stay there with you. She could have easily said, I'm out, see you later.
100%.
I don't want any part of this, but sticking around, you're part of her herd.
Yep.
And I think that's really cool, to hear. It's a very unfortunate situation, but it goes to show how bonded these animals can become to their people.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she did this with me about 6 months after she came into my life. There was a gelding that was about 7 or 8 in the pasture. And he used to charge at people. And I was way too far away from the fence, not in a pasture, in a bigger arena. And I didn't realize that he did this. The owner told me this, ha, 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 funny, laughing later. And I looked at her like, why is this funny? But anyway, so this horse is like almost double the size of my horse. And he came charging at me, and there was no way I could get over the rail or to a gate. And she galloped across the field and jumped right in front of him to stop him. And then she stayed next to me the whole walk back to the gate so I could get out. So I already knew, wow. But at that point I was like, oh, that's a fluke. That wasn't real. Now after this incident, I'm like, oh, hell no, that was real.
For
and
sure.
so was the second one, because you're totally right. She could have run off at any point. The other horse did run off. She, the one being attacked, did not. She just kept going in a circle, and doing everything she could to have her rear end away from facing any of the humans so that she could kick the crap out of this dog. It was just, that's why my vet just kept, and the animal control guy said, in my 30 some years, I've never seen anything like this bad with a dog in my entire life. And I've never seen a horse like this in my entire life. It was just, that's saying a lot for someone that does this for a living.
Because if you watch horses in the wild, again, prey animals, the horses will do that exact thing. They will get, the more vulnerable, the older ones, the young ones, if there's like, wolves or coyotes or anything like that, and they put them, they will circle around and then they'll put their butt out towards, and they will try, if there's a bunch of them, they can put quite a few in the middle. But if there's only the one horse there trying to circle around you, then they just keep pivoting and doing 360s, trying to keep you up at their front chest.
Yes.
And keeping you safe. They do that in the wild all the time. So, I just think that just speaks to that incredible bond, that you have with this horse. And her name is Secret, right?
Yep. Her name is Secret. And and that's such a perfect name for her in so many ways. Such a perfect name for her. But, like I said, she ended up getting stitches in the front shoulder where the dog's a she, got a nice chunk out of her, not to the muscle, thank God. And no stitches on the flank, even though that's where the dog was literally hanging off of, no stitches anywhere else. We got really lucky. I ended up with that bruise on my stomach. I've got a bruise on my lower back, on the back of my leg, and then the bottom of my foot is black and blue, probably from kicking. but other that, and also being like, just the adrenaline rush. It took about 3 days for me to feel the pain. First of all, the physical pain. And then now I'm starting to go, you need to process this, girl. You need to call your therapist, because that was traumatic. Don't just wipe this under the rug, because it's going to show up later. And speaking from a mental health perspective, it will show up later unless I do some major crying and, getting this out.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad that you said that, because, one of the things is when anybody that's listening, I mean, if you experience a trauma, go talk about it. The longer that you wait, the more it'll settle in, and it can create all kinds of things, from sleep issues to, hypervigilance and just kind of making you overall uncomfortable. So, thank you for saying that. And definitely go and talk to somebody and kind of get this processed out. Yeah, because I'm sure that just kind of came out of nowhere from something that you were just having a wonderful time doing. I mean, I know, when I'm riding horses, it's like my favorite thing. I'm out in nature, and I like the sound of how the horse's feet hitting the ground. I like the sound of how the saddle squeaks, and it smells good. And it's just, especially it being spring. And, that's an amazing time right there. And, we don't want for you in the future to run into where you're just not able to enjoy it because you're looking around, even though, that rarely really happens. So there's a lot of amazing things that you can do. Accelerated resolution therapy is wonderful. It's an eye movement therapy for anybody that might be listening. Check that out. That's something that we're using a lot with soldiers with PTSD, and it's no medication, and it can be usually addressed in 1 to 2 sessions. So check that out. But Kristin, so your horse has a few stitches, but she's doing okay, and you didn't have to get any stitches, but you're pretty bruised up. Now with the horse, I mean, did she settle down?
She's so
pretty
amazing.
Quickly, or?
She did. She had residual, like, for while we were still there writing up the report with animal control. Once they got the dog, off with the owner and safely put away, she was still like kicking her back legs out, just sort of like reflexive kicking. And she was shaking, because she had just,
Yeah.
been through hell. But then we walked home from there, and it was so great because you think, oh, I know every place that there are dogs that bark at their fence on this walk, of course, because, my horse doesn't flinch at those things, but I thought, well, maybe she now will. And she did not flinch. She doesn't blame dogs as a whole, which is pretty amazing. She did not flinch. She did not jump at any of the dogs on the way back, which, was really cool. She flinches a little at gunshots anyway. She was a little cautious on the way back where one dog is loose, but would never attack her. And she knew it. And I could tell she was sort of slowing down. And the guy, quick called his dog over because, he could see the blood on my horse. He was like, oh my God. And so he took the dog in, and then she was fine, but there was no freak out. No, she just calmly, walked back. And now the vet had to trank her like a rhino to do the stitches,
For sure.
But, and then the next day, bad timing, but it worked out how it worked out because I had just gotten a rescue donkey because she needs a pasture mate. And I don't want to do another horse. I have enough, obviously, with handling just one. So I got a rescue donkey, and I was like, this is not good timing because the donkey shows up the next day. And I'm like, oh, she doesn't need this right now. But you know what? It actually bonded them. And now that donkey's out in the pasture with her, and it's like he's her little pet. So she is happy as can be. So it worked out.
For sure.
It worked out very well. But my first thought was, you are totally irresponsible. Why would you put this donkey right now? But animals show up when they show up. So
Yep. I believe that too. So now, I know this is something that's, kind of unpleasant to talk about, but I think, it's important to talk about the reality of pet ownership too. And especially if, you're one of those that you've got maybe a dog that's a little bit more on the aggressive side or, on the restricted breed. I mean, it's important for, us to always take responsibility, but what happened with that dog in particular?
I don't know yet. The guy won't text me back now. But I'm following up with animal control. Apparently in the state that we live in, because the dog was updated on rabies and because the owner was there, they did not have to do a 48-hour hold, and you do not have to euthanize a dog, even if it attacks a person in this particular state, which is beyond me, but that's for legislature and voters to vote. Yeah. The dog, I heard the next morning from the owner before he stopped communicating that she was in really bad shape, and he was probably going to have to put her down just simply out of, kindness to the dog because, come on, 8 times the dog's kicked in every part of its body by a horse and then also by, human beings. And just to put this out there, listeners, nobody kicked this dog ahead. The dog was kicked after it was hanging on to the horse. So this was not like us triggering the horse to be bad. This was like to save the horse's life, our lives, whatever. But I can't imagine the dog surviving something like that, but I just I don't know whether the dog was put down. But here's the thing. This guy will immediately go get another one from the same place. So it's really important.
Probably do the same kind of training.
Yep. And it's really important since you can't control the ignorance or how someone was raised. What's that football player that had the dogs on his property?
Michael Vick.
He was raised this way. Where he was raised, this was considered an amazing thing. I know from speaking to people that are friends with him, whenever that happened, he truly learned a lot from his time and having to understand why this is so cruel and wrong. And sometimes it takes that kind of thing to make that happen. So if this is how this young man was raised, he really doesn't see, anything wrong with this. And he was genuinely concerned about what was happening and very sad about his dog. So it was interesting to sit there and have tremendous compassion, for this young man who was so very sad while also going, what planet do you come from? But again, how many counselors in
Mhm.
mental health have to sit and listen to their patients come to these different awarenesses and have to take what
Mhm.
their personal opinion is about something and put it at the door before they walk into that room.
Mhm.
So, but I would
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
as an owner of animals, if you know that there's an animal like that in your neighborhood and you know that this person is not on the same page, awareness or anything as you are going to have to be more diligent with your kids, your animals, all of those
Mhm.
things, because in many
Right.
cases, that kind of thing isn't against the law.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you're okay and that your horse is okay. It's really unfortunate in those types of situations because I know you as an animal lover too. We can't really blame the dog for being
Not at
trained to
all.
do what it was trained to do.
I don't
And
blame the dog at
that's
all.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, though, I mean, it's just like any kind of thing, any kind of a weapon or anything like that, knowing what you have, being careful with it. That's, why we always tell people that do get restricted breed dogs. I've met wonderful, wonderful pit bulls. My
Same here.
parents have an adopted one on their farm that is just he's a big baby. He sleeps with cats. It's adorable. I'll have to post that picture for everybody to see. But they are powerful animals though. And if they're
Right.
not raised properly and not given the right training and the right affections as well, then this can be the result. And so I just think it's a hard topic to talk about, but it's something that, I think we need to always continue to reinforce is you've got to be prepared if you decide to have certain breeds of dogs to take the time to train them, to take the time to be responsible with them, or, unfortunate things can happen.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to look at when something like this happens, and self-examination is very, very good. Going to therapy about this, or talking and or speaking with your friends about this to get it
Hmm.
out of you. It's also a really good time to assess, how do you look at life. It was really good for me to go, I do not see myself as a victim in this situation, meaning,
Hmm.
was I a victim of something that happened? Absolutely. Yes, of course. However, I immediately looked at every positive, what went right. Dog catcher
Hmm.
was there, or animal control. Sorry if he decides to listen to this, because I will send it to him. But I immediately did that. And it was the first time, and I say this not as, oh, this is so great, look at me. I say this as showing you, listeners, how you can check your mental state when traumas and crises, because they happen for
Hmm.
everybody. Check where you are.
Yes.
It was really good for me to go, hey,
Mhm.
this is the first time in my entire life, and I'm 50, that I have never immediately blamed myself. Oh, this was my fault because it's karma and I did something bad to somebody. I mean, all the crazy ways that I could blame myself from a really poor childhood experience and a lot of childhood abuse. I always blamed myself. I was the kicked dog. This was the first time where I did
Mhm.
not do that. And so for me to stop and go, hey, that's pretty freaking awesome. That's a step ahead.
That is amazing. Yes. Yes. I love that. And I'm so thankful that you share that as well, because that is where a lot of times people tend to go is they're
Yep.
saying, oh, maybe I shouldn't have gone out today. Maybe I shouldn't have done this, or maybe, and what happens is it becomes such a vicious cycle that they stop living. I
Yes.
mean, and they stop putting themselves out there and doing things that they love. But there's ways to help you with that through therapy, talking with your support system of friends and family. But yeah, I'm really glad that you had that awareness and then that experience as well. That's another positive as well, is just seeing,
Absolutely.
you know, I'm sure that was pretty empowering.
Very empowering, very empowering. It helped me root into where I've just moved, because I was feeling a little, did I make the right decision? What on interesting timing to
Hmm.
move during this coronavirus pandemic that's going on, but it cemented me into this community. So there were so many more positives that came out of this, but I can tell you a me of even 5 years ago would have had 80 to 90% negative view of this situation and 10% positive, even if that, and all the work in therapy and all the things that I do to focus on, being a mentally healthy person has turned me into someone that sees, probably 98% positive. So, and if I can do that, trust me, anybody can, because I was really negative. So anyway, and that's our training. This dog had negative training as it was being raised, and we humans get that too. And we can lash out and be vicious and be whatever out of our training and out of our wounds. And this dog, and
Exactly.
did the same damn thing. And that is why I will never blame the dog for it.
Right. Awesome, Kristin. Well, I'm just so glad that you and Secret are doing well.
Me too.
And I hope that you guys are back to riding soon as the weather gets warmer. I know that my sanity is being outdoors and riding my horse through all of this craziness that's going on in the world right now. It seems to be, like one of the most pure places is just being in the barn with the animals right now.
Absolutely. As soon as I would have been up on her that day, but of course, because she's got stitches and stuff, I'm going to give her a week and then I will be right back on her. So that's the other thing in life. Get right back on the horse. Just do it. That's another way of processing your trauma. But thank you, Prairie, for reaching out and wanting to talk about this on a show. I really appreciate it. This helped me too. So I appreciate that.
Awesome. All right, Kristin. Have a great one.
Yes. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Prairie Conlon with the Animal Effect and Mental Health News Radio.
Hi, listeners. I'll make it quick. These are some really cool places that give discounts and other cool things for listeners of Mental Health News Radio Network. If you want to get amazing help with healing from narcissistic abuse, go to healfromanarcissist.com. If you want CBD products that are the best of the best, I use them myself, go to proze.com and use the code mentalhealth20, mentalhealth20. If you want to get daily perk ups that help retrain your brain to think more positively, go to perkupdaily.com. And also, just because this one's fun, snarkycandles.com. I guarantee you'll love them. Snarky with a Y, SNARKY candles.com. And don't forget, if you want to hear all the shows on the network about first responders, you can go to firstrespondernmentalhealthnetwork.com, and all of our shows that focus on narcissistic abuse, narcissisticabusehealingnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and back to the show.
Sometimes I'm passive-aggressive, but never without good intentions. I heat up and act on my emotions.
Thanks so much for listening to Mental Health News Radio. Our podcast can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, and hundreds of other podcast apps, or you can visit our website at mentalhealthnewsradio.com. If you have a question or would like to be a guest, become a podcaster on our network, or join the amazing organizations that help keep us on the air, please email us at info@mhnrnetwork.com. Get ready for that special goodbye from our resident therapy dog, Miles, and a special thanks to Emily Sohn for letting us use her incredible song, Cordial, for our podcast music. Listen to the full song on SoundCloud at emily.sonne.
Don't be surprised when I don't hate on you. After all, we promised we'd be cordial. Sometimes in you I can fight it, but I oppose it.
Good boy.